Right, returning to developments now in Syria, where the United Nations has been delivering much-needed aid to the beleaguered district of eastern Ghouta, just outside the country's capital, Damascus. It's the first time humanitarian assistance has made it into the area since fighting between the Syrian government and the insurgents escalated there last month. Well, joining me live now is Linda Tom from the UN Office for Humanitarian Affairs. Thanks for joining us here, Linda. Firstly, it would be really interesting to get your views on how you assess the operation so far.
Well, so far, the UN, the Syrian Arab Red Crescent, and ICRC have been able to enter East Ghouta, and that mission is ongoing, heading towards Douma. We have about 46 truckloads of health and nutrition supplies and food for over 27,000 people. And we're hoping to be able to start the offloading in the coming hours. As we said, it's a lot of trucks, it's a lot of supply. At the same time, we have medical doctors, nutrition experts, food experts who will be doing assessments of the situation on the ground so that we can better inform our future assistance.
Linda, this is a bit of a breakthrough, isn't it, that we're hearing now, that those trucks are able to go in to that area with all those desperate people. It's not been easy, though. Can you explain the difficulties that have been faced?
Well, sure. This is long overdue. The last time that we reached East Ghouta, where we estimate about 400,000 people are in need of assistance, was on the 14th of February. And when we entered that time, we were only able to bring assistance for 7,000 people. Prior to that, we had not been able to reach East Ghouta for over 70 days. So access has been a huge hurdle for us in being able to reach people in need in East Ghouta.
Why was it so difficult? You know, we've got reports that the UN has said that the Syrian government prevented medical supplies from being loaded onto the trucks. That's just one example. Why was it so difficult? Who was preventing the UN from delivering that aid?
I'm afraid that access has been an ongoing issue for the humanitarian team here in Syria. And in this case, we were informed this morning by the government of Syria. UN and partners were told that that many of the planned health supplies intended for Douma would not be allowed to be loaded. And in addition to that, we were not permitted to replace these items with other life-saving items. So these included things like trauma kits and other basic medicines and life-saving assistance, life-saving supplies that are needed in Douma.
I spoke to a mother who's been working for the Red Crescent, and she told us that the road out of Al Ghouta to the Al Wafadin camp, there was just one way out, and that was causing problems because that road itself was dangerous, with the insurgents causing problems, sniping at people trying to escape. Have you experienced the same problems when you've been trying to deliver that aid as well?
Well, I mean, we can't speak to the exact, military operations because we're not present in East Ghouta. We are only able to enter sporadically, but we know that over the past couple of days that there has been an escalation of fighting that has resulted in about 600 people killed and thousands of people injured. Today, on our way to East Ghouta, we had also heard the sounds of mortars, of shelling, of fighting, along our path, and these are real concerns because we cannot put the people of Douma in danger by when there is ongoing fighting, and at the same time we also have concern for the safety of the humanitarian aid workers that are part of this convoy.
Yeah, and that is a dilemma. That's always a dilemma in this situation, isn't it? Is, getting the supplies there, but also the workers that you employ. In addition to delivering that humanitarian aid, and following on to that from that question, to what extent is your agency in a position to help those civilians wanting to leave Al Ghouta?
Well, I mean, our position has always been that people should have the right to stay in their homes, and people should have the right to leave. So people should have freedom of movement, and for those who choose to leave, they should always have the right to return. I think in the case of East Ghouta, it's a very specific situation. It's an area that is completely besieged. Some parts of East Ghouta have been besieged for years. That means people cannot go in or out of this area. Commercial access, has completely stopped. There was a time where there was some commercial access, but at this point it's completely stopped. Basic supplies that we all need in order to survive are extremely limited or completely not available. So the situation is extremely challenging for men, women, and children in East Ghouta.
Given, Linda, that the situation is so extreme and they have been trapped for years, and just very briefly, how would you quickly evaluate the establishment of the humanitarian corridor by Russia?
Well, we were not part of the discussions around the humanitarian corridors. However, any initiative that alleviates the suffering of people, we of course welcome. Our primary goal is that there is a cessation of hostilities, that there is a humanitarian pause that is long enough for us to be able to deliver assistance on a regular basis. What we called for and what we continue to call for is 30 days of at least 30 days cessation of hostilities so that we can deliver assistance to people in need in East Ghouta, but also in other besieged and hard-to-reach areas in Syria.
OK, Linda Tom, Public Information Officer for the UN Office for Humanitarian Affairs. Thanks very much for coming onto our programme.